call to order the meeting of the Nelson County Board of Education. It is Tuesday, October 17th at approximately 5:20 p.m. And first we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Nelson County Board of Education, representatives of our citizens and entrusted with their children, pledges to support the mission of the Nelson County School District by setting visionary direction through effective policy, oversight, and efficient resource management. Quality education now, learning for life. First up is our student stakeholder engagement, and we're going to talk about some good news.
Okay. Mr. Kirk McElroy from the Academy at Horizons took students to St. Vincent de Paul Mission Store to help arrange and put items away on September 29th. The students showed great interest in helping others and received several positive comments while at the store. Mr. McElroy takes students throughout the year to St. Vincent de Paul as a community service for his project group. Students at the Academy have recovered 64 courses during August and September of 2017. This is over 200% increase for last year's courses. Gifted and talented students at Bloomfield Elementary have been working on a beautification project of the playground and outside area. Students had to map out what type of plants and shrubbery that they wanted to add to plant beds and areas on the playground. These students worked a few days weeding and planting, and our playground looks beautiful. Bloomfield Middle School had 6 students make All-State chorus. 43 Beta Club members attended the Beta Club Leadership Summit in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, September 27th through the 29th. Their club placed in 3 out of the 4 areas of competition: service snapshot, rapid response, and lead outside the box. Luke Phelps, a 7th grader at Boston, was selected for the Kentucky Choral Directors Association All-State Chorus. The Boston Theater Company performed a scene from their upcoming production, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, for students. The full production will take place November 10th and 11th at the Thomas Nelson High School auditorium. Cox's Creek Elementary is excited about their plan for novice reduction and gap closure. They have hired 2 new classified staff members to pull small groups of students based on their MAP and K-Prep needs to close this gap. The first grade reading has 80% of students at or above grade level mean according to their MAP assessment. The 5th grade student, Carly Thomas from Foster Heights Elementary, audition was selected to participate in the ACDA All-State Chorus. She will be working with a professional musician and other students to perform at the University of Kentucky later this year. The Early Learning Center continues to grow and enrolled 11 new students since September the 18th. They are working to prepare their school and staff and students for the spring ECHRS audit by reviewing procedures, rules, and learning songs to help them through the day. Congratulations to the following students who were selected as young leaders from Nelson County High School: Jackson Boone, Vivian Carwile, Victoria Childress, Evelyn Clan, Sydney Cochran, Ashley Colvin, Jenna Head, Jaylene Hughes, Laurel Philpott, and Mallory Terrell. New Haven is hosting their first Parent University Night Thursday the 19th. Students will first lead conferences with parents, followed by opportunities for parents to get more involved with the school. They will have presentations on Google Docs, Leader in Me, and academic skills that parents can use with their students at home. 8th grade students at Old Kentucky Home have been working with the novel Dracula. They also had the opportunity to see performance of Bram Stoker's Dracula at Actors Theater in Louisville. Prior to seeing the performance, 8th grade spent time on researching Bram Stoker and Vlad the Impaler in order to better understand the history of the play, as well reading and acting out the play. The 8th grade plans to complete the reading of the play and write an argumentative essay on what they believe happens next, since the ending leaves the story wide open. Congratulations to the following sophomores who will represent Thomas Nelson High School this year in the Young Leaders Institute, sponsored by the Bardstown Nelson County Chamber of Commerce. Amelia Boone, Caroline Boone, Austin Burba, Clay Cecil, Kaylee Elin, Sammy Howard, Coulter, Cox Arbison, Caroline Thomas, and Izzy Whitus. Congratulations to Ms. Brenda Hickman and our child care staff for earning a 5-star rating as part of the Kentucky All-Stars Kentucky Partnership Program. They go over and beyond what is required of their licensing. And at this time, we'll ask Ms. Jamie Chenault, our digital learning coach, to come forward.
Hi, how are you all? Good. So tonight we're actually going to be recognizing some more Google certified educators. We have 6 here tonight with us. And so when I call your name, if you'll come up, we have a certificate and then also a goodie bag for you guys. And then if you'll just make a line up front. So our first Google certified educator actually has achieved level 1 and 2 Google certification. And that is Michelle Hendricks from Boston Elementary. And you'll stay up here. Our second Google certified educator is Miss Kelsey Mattingly. Kelsey will come up. She is from Foster Heights. Our third educator is Miss Sarah Burke, and she is also from Boston Elementary with level 1 Google certification. Right. Martina Amshoff from Boston Elementary, and she is also level 1 Google certified. We have Daryl Parks as level 1 Google certification, and he comes from us from Bloomfield Elementary. And last but not least, we have Miss Jessica Sparrow, and she comes from us from Nelson County High School, and she is level 1 Google has level 1 Google certification as well. So he wants to get a picture. Yeah.
Stay up there, we're going to make a picture, please, so Mr. People will come.
Do we need to scoot closer together? Sure, my chin is showing.
Just a little bit, that makes it a little bit easier to turn it.
I guess I need to go this way, don't I?
That's where they turn that.
Figure out which way my...
Yeah, make your
G, make the G, okay, that's the G. We might have to squat down.
There's something about the frame and the, so it doesn't glare.
Yeah, lean it back.
Gotta lean it back.
Okay, sure.
I think everybody.
So the glare will not hit the picture. It's my job to tell you all. And sometimes I forget.
I forgot how this works. I'll make one more, maybe 2. I can't see anybody's blink, so it's always good to get more than one. Good.
Thank you guys so much. Good
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. And just to sum things up, We will be starting a Google certification class, level 1, in November for any other educators, admin, central office staff that is ready to go that route. And so I just wanted to keep you guys informed, and we'll head that off. And so hopefully we'll have additions to our Google certified educators. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Right. And next up would be our operations consent agenda, and this consists of several documents that was sent to us prior to tonight's meeting. And so with that, I need a motion to approve these documents as presented.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie made a motion.
Second.
Ms. Berry, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, our efficient resource management, and we're going to discuss fuel bids with Mr. Hoffman.
Good evening. About 3.5 hours ago, we opened 4 fuel bids. I hope we can flip that. There we go. Good. We received bids for our gasoline and our diesel fuel. We are estimating between now and June of 2019, we're going to purchase about 225,000 gallons of diesel fuel and about 25,000 gallons of gasoline. And we received bids from Mansfield Oil, Likens Energy, Key Oil, and Petroleum Traders. Petroleum Traders has been our provider of fuels for a few years now. We opened the bids and compiled those, and you see there are a lot of numbers. I know it's confusing. And if you'll scroll down to the bottom of that sheet, Carla, my recommendation, and you can see it on the decision paper, is that we continue with Petroleum Traders Corporation at a fixed price for diesel fuel of $216.45. That includes all taxes. That includes freight. That's everything. That's what we pay after, for delivery to our tank, and $201.89 for gasoline. If you look, we had fixed prices from Mansfield and Petroleum Traders. We only received a variable price from the other 2 vendors. We've talked about this a few times, and we all buy gas for our individual vehicles, and we know that prices have been, for the most part, pretty consistent and not bad for the last few years. A couple of years anyway. I think we also all remember, though, it hadn't been that long ago that fuel was a lot more than we pay today. And after I opened these bids at 2 o'clock, and I compiled probably about within the last hour, I called the 4 bidders and told them what the recommendation would be. And they all understood that. And when I talked to the gentleman from Mansfield, who was in my office just earlier today, he agreed with the recommendation for fixed. His response to me was, it's not going to zero, and I think you're making the right decision. He would have liked to have gotten the contract, and he lost the contract by $217.50 on $537,000. That's how close it is. In the end, I feel like this is good pricing. I will tell you that your diesel fuel price is going from the current, the last contract we had was at $206.83. This contract would be at $216.45, just under 10 cents addition per gallon on 225,000 gallons at $22,500. Gasoline is actually going from a current price of $209 to just under $202, so we're going to save some money on gas. We're going to spend a little more on diesel, add all that together, and we're estimating the total cost is going to go up by about $20,000 over the next year and a half. I do feel like this is it's still a very good price for the district, and the fixed price provides you the security of knowing what you're going to spend on diesel fuel for the next year and a half. We don't always know what we're going to spend on other things. Things happen. We know about how far we drive buses annually, about how many miles we put on vehicles annually, and with the fixed price, we've got confidence in knowing about what we're going to be spending on fuels annually, so we can confidently budget funds elsewhere without the risk of having to move money back to cover increased cost in fuel. So our recommendation is the fixed price and staying with Petroleum Traders. Any questions?
Okay. The then I need a motion to approve the fixed price in Petroleum Traders as the provider for fuels for 2017 through 2019.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Norman made a motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Dye second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we're going to talk about BG4 at Nelson County Early Learning Center and then at Thomas Nelson High School.
BG4 is the document you file when you're finished. Okay, you got a BG1, that's what you file when you start. You got 2s and 3s that you file when you're in the middle of the project, and the 4 is telling the state, we're done with this project. That's essentially what you're saying. You have 14 bid packages for the Nelson County Early Learning Center, and we're recommending we approve a BG4 on all 14 of those bid packages. That is the recommendation of the construction managers and the architect and our staff, and we're happy with the way that project turned out. So our recommendation is you approve those BG4s.
On the Early Learning Center, overall total cost compared to what we originally estimated, or what the estimates originally were for it, how did we end up on that? A little bit over, a little bit under?
Well, your contingency, you know, and I don't have that number fresh in my mind, but I can tell you that your total construction cost is about $2.38 million. I think our change orders total around 1.5%. And I will tell you, if you compare that, and there are other preschools that have been built in Kentucky. I know of one, for example, in Henderson County, where it was a $12 million preschool. A friend of mine was the person handling that project for them. That was a few years ago. It's a little bigger than ours, but certainly I feel like we did get serious bang for our buck with the property that we decided to use. And I think it's a beautiful facility, so I feel like we got very good value there for the total spent.
Then if what we're talking about is 1.5% into the contingency, whenever you think about all the things that we had to discuss throughout the time of that construction work, whether it's that telephone line, you know, there was some work that had to be done in the old cafeteria, that's still small dollars that we had to spend above and beyond into that contingency.
Well, I'll remind you, you all may remember, you know, we talked early on in that project, you know, the possibility is always that you could hit rock.
Yeah.
And if you ever hit rock on a construction site, that's not fun. That's not good news. Well, the bid documents were structured for this project that the contractor, the excavation contractor, it was on them. So we knew up front there was no rock charges for us. There was a charge when we had to move a phone line that was an unknown issue. But as far as rock, general excavation of rock, we did hit some rock. You didn't have to pay for that. That's another reason why our change order cost is as low as it is. So again, I think it's a very successful project.
But I think we came out ahead simply because we had, a lot of the building was already there. I mean, if we had to build that old board building,
Right.
you know, it would have cost us somewhat more.
Well, yeah,
I think we did well to plan and use what's there to save a lot of money.
it's a unique project from start to finish. You have the
Yes.
central office. I can go back years. There's a few people probably in the room that were here along with me, but I can go back a lot. We tried to sell the central office. We got one bid. We felt like it was not acceptable. So we go to Plan B. Next thing you know, there's a movement to go to a district-wide preschool. We build the preschool. Then we quickly realized we're going to need more space. And around that same time, we had an old building downtown right next to Foster Heights that we were no longer using. And we had, some of you all may have been on the board at the time, I'm sure Damon was. You know, an agreement was reached with the city of Bardstown. And the city of Bardstown deeded to the school district 1.8 acres. And Terry Gohagan remembers this, I'm sure. And we deeded to the city of Bardstown that building. And that was certainly a win-win. The city, if you go down there, that facility is used every day, a lot of activity there. And we certainly found good value in that 1.8 acres that the city gave to us in exchange. It allowed us to add on all those classrooms. Now you've got a preschool that has 14 classrooms, which will accommodate, hopefully, the preschool population in this district for the foreseeable future. So again, I think it's been a very successful project.
I do too. So, good job.
So then I will need a motion motion to approve the BG4s for bid packages 1 through 14 from the Nelson County Early Learning Center project.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie made a motion.
Second.
Ms. Berry second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to Thomas Nelson.
Very similar story here, with one exception. We received the package of BG4s a couple of weeks ago, and just a few days ago, was asked to pull bid package 2, the M&J construction package, because there is still some remaining work, and Stephen Ward, your architect, looking out for you, wanted to pull that, not have that approved tonight so we could withhold retainage, because there's some work that still remains to be done. I'm confident we'll be bringing that BG4 back to you next month. We are recommending that all the other 13 bid packages you approve the BG4s for tonight. Again, that's another very successful project. Last month or month before last, don't remember exactly when, we had a board meeting out there. It's a beautiful facility. And that's a couple of very successful projects. So,
And this one here too, the Thomas Nelson High School in general, I think we had to do 3 original phases, although phase 1 and phase 2, we got lucky enough we're able to combine them at the same time. But this piece here completes what that original vision was for Thomas Nelson, is to give them that complete high school facility, this being that auditorium for them. And I know, Ms. Berry, you've said many a time, for the arts, whether we're talking about drama, acting, or also for the musical arts, being able to have that type of facility for them. And if I remember right, this is another one of those, I think it was about 1% of contingency we had to end up leveraging. And you just mentioned too about Stephen Ward and about BCD Construction, who have been the principal players on both of these particular ones, but also on a lot of the original piece. They were the original players with Thomas Nelson Construction, with the Nelson County Early Learning Construction. And I think they've been a great advocate for us as a community on ensuring that we got the most bang for our buck, like you were saying.
I certainly feel that way. And again, if you look at the total cost of preschool from start to finish, all phases, how many kids it will accommodate, and then compare it to similar facilities around Kentucky. If you take a look at what we spent start to finish in Thomas Nelson, look at the facility, look at what you've got there, compare that to what other high schools in Kentucky have been built for you, I think you'll feel good about where you're at. Again, I think you got a lot of value there. I think it's a beautiful school, so as the preschool is,
I don't remember what the numbers were, but I do remember former board member Nikki Rapier talking about Thomas Nelson High School at the time that we finished that phase 1 and phase 2, everything but the auditorium. And at that same time, Boyd County up in Ashland, Northeast Kentucky, had just built a new Boyd County High School. Granted, there may have been a rock that maybe they ran into, we're talking about the mountains. But I don't remember the numbers, but he compared the per square foot cost of Thomas Nelson to Boyd County, and it was a huge difference. Thomas Nelson was just so much more economical to build. And I've been by the Boyd County High School, it's a great high school. Nothing at all against the design or anything, but I would put Thomas Nelson up against it any day of the week in any sort of competition for innovation and design.
we got great value in both those facilities. I agree on a cost per square foot basis. We get, the state recommends to us how much we insure our buildings for. And, I've gone through battles with them over the years because, when you set a value on your buildings, you're paying a premium based on that. Our insurance premium is a big chunk of money. It's $350,000. We've been able to prove to them in the past. I realize you're telling me it's $240 a square foot. We just built it for $180, or things, arguments along those lines, and we've got the data to back that up. So we've saved in a number of ways as a result of those efficiencies. So again, I think you can feel good about both those projects.
Then I will need a motion to approve the BG4s for bid packages 1 and 3 through 14 for Thomas Nelson High School project.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Norman made a motion. Second. Ms. Berry second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, our facilities update.
I believe we're waiting on this jury from Nelson County High
Yes,
School.
she'll be here a little bit later. So go ahead with your part, and we'll catch her when she gets here.
I'll just give you a quick overview of the energy project that, we've had underway. It's 99 point, you all may recall from several work sessions, John Gasser and Adam Pierce have been here. We did the HVAC piece at Bloomfield Middle. That's, of course, been finished for some time now. And we are still tying up some minor loose ends with light bulb lights throughout the district, but most of those have been done. And I would expect to come back to you with a BG4 package for that project at some point, maybe as early as next month. Again, we feel good about that as well. We feel like that's going to save us money, just like the first phase of that project did when we did Cox's Creek and some other work a few years ago, and that's been a positive project as well. I know, haven't talked to Rodney specifically about his HVAC, but I'm sure he feels really good about it. I haven't been to Bloomfield but a couple of times since that project wrapped up, but I know it's a positive. I know our maintenance guys are very happy to have that there. We're no longer in the propane business at Bloomfield Middle School. I'll remind you, we've had this conversation a few times. There was a time or two where we thought we might have to close school over propane. We don't have to worry about that now. We don't have propane at Cox's Creek. We don't have propane at Bloomfield anymore. We've got geothermal electric, and those buildings are extremely efficient. And that piece at Bloomfield, which was a big part of this project, I think has got a chance to push us even further up the line as far as efficiency and utility usage for school districts in Kentucky. We're way up there now. We want to continue to try to squeeze as much out of that as we can, and that should help us some.
Well, we've been top 3 the past 2 years. I think Owen County's been first the past 2 years. So
I think we're second. We were third. I believe we're second now.
So are we completely out of the propane business?
We've got some propane at New Haven in the kitchen, I believe,
Okay.
but very little. There may be one propane tank at Nelson County High School, but we're almost completely out of the propane business. Years ago, that was one of our larger bids. We buy 50,000 gallons of propane a year. We buy very little now, and we're happy about it.
You've been, of course, pushed at Bloomfield Middle School was the geothermal piece and tagging into the field that had already been constructed there whenever the elementary was built. So how many of our facilities are not geothermal now?
The Early Learning Center, and part of it is.
Okay.
The New Haven is. This building is not geothermal. Horizons Academy is not geothermal. And I think that's about it.
Okay.
Maintenance warehouse obviously not. OKH is geothermal, yeah.
Okay, I know the high school is.
The high school is.
Okay.
Thomas Nelson, Bloomfield, both Bloomfields, Cox's Creek now is. Yep, but Boston, they all are. They all are. So that's a very efficient way to heat, cool your buildings. Environmentally friendly way to do it. So we're real happy with it, and it provides our maintenance guys. We got 4 maintenance people. If you, Ms. Breeding, I know, was on our facility planning committee 4 years ago, and KDE will come when you do that, and they'll make a presentation. They'll tell you, you should, for a district your size, you should have X number of maintenance people. And I don't know if you remember, but I remember because I almost fell out of my chair. They said we should have about 10 or 11. Well, we have 4. We have 4. We can't afford 10 or 11. We have 4. And we're more efficient. We're able to maintain our facilities more efficiently when they've all got similar systems. It's the same reason Jeff Marchese wants a certain type of bus at the bus garage. He doesn't want you pulling in a Chevy and then the next person coming in a Benz and then somebody like me pulling in a Yugo. He wants the same thing. He can operate more efficiently and we can as a district. So that's where we're at now. Pretty close to that with our facilities, certainly on our HVAC. We're very happy with it.
And
it helps those guys get their job.
I was thinking too, that was one of our goals too, for Kevin and facilities folks, is to make it to where they can maintain, instead of us having to go out and bring in specialists or paying a vendor, no names being mentioned, but a vendor to actually maintain the HVAC systems throughout the district.
Obviously, we don't want to keep that to a minimum every chance we can, because that's expensive. We want our guys to maintain as much as they possibly can.
So we're done with this latest What did we start calling it, Mr. Hawkins-Smith?
Guaranteed.
Performance bond.
Guaranteed energy savings
Yeah.
contracts. what they're
Okay.
called.
So will it be next summer before we, or maybe about this time next fall, before we start seeing that first year's worth of, I don't want to say cost savings, I'll say cost avoidance? And
We'll have that at the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
Again, a big chunk of that was the work at Bloomfield Middle School,
Okay.
which was in place when school started. It was in place.
Okay.
A lot of the lighting was in place when school started.
Just little small things here or
We're
there.
just tying up loose ends. The last few weeks, we're just tying up loose ends. I got a call from CMTA yesterday, and they felt like they overlooked this. They're gonna go and install new exterior lighting at the ELC at no cost to the district because they felt like they overlooked it. They should have included it in the project.
Yeah.
They did not. It's not a huge expense, but it's an expense they're gonna eat because they felt like they should have included it. It will generate savings to the district. We're not gonna have to pay for that equipment. They're gonna provide it.
Well, and I know that first one of the performance contracts that we entered into, about 4 years ago,
Yeah.
something like that, that it was over a 20-year span is what it was bonded for. And essentially, we were taking dollars that we were already spending on energy consumption, redirecting that to pay those bonds off for those energy efficiency things that were done at the time. And I think, if I remember right, that first, and so there's a guaranteed amount each year that CMTA said, we guarantee that you'll meet this dollar amount benchmark. And I think that first year, we more than exceeded it.
Over $100,000.
Yeah.
And it showed right up in your contingency at the end of the year.
And of course, that's what we would hope for this one as well. So that's kind of why I was trying to get an idea. So it'll be next July, it sounds like, that we'll be able to see the results of this first year and what we've done. And granted, this was smaller than that other one.
Right.
So it won't be $100,000 excess that.
We also
that
sold,
was-
you may recall, it's a 15-year bond issue. It's like your mortgage. You know, we did 15-year issues to reduce the interest rate and to save money for the district over the long haul. So it's a 15-year issue. It's a 50% general fund issue and 50% capital fund issue, if you recall. But yes, I absolutely expect to see savings over and above the guaranteed level that they provided. I expect that those guys are conservative. They don't want to have to write you all a check. So I'm confident, and we'll be able to verify that. You know, I don't look at their numbers when they provide. I look at the bills. I look at what we actually pay. I have a number of reports I run. We have Josh Bunch, our district energy manager, that digs into that very deeply. Does a great job. So we like to get the information from them, but we verify it. We run our own reports.
Didn't they give us an estimate? Do you remember they gave us a chart that sort of
For this
estimated how much?
15-year one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sort of estimated how much money we would save.
We do have that. I don't remember
Yes.
those exact numbers, but they
I don't
exceed
either,
the
but
bond.
I remember we got the chart and it was a pretty healthy amount.
One last question. Remind me, is the original 20-year and this 15-year, are they able to be paid off early if the energy efficiency, that threshold is exceeded by quite a bit more, or is it just 20 years and 15 years?
You know, you can always pay off debt early. We've done that in the past with Kiss the Bus issues and so
Right.
forth. I don't know that it would be pretty unusual for a district to pay off a 2.8 or 3% bond issue early.
Sure.
Especially if you're earning interest.
Because it's
And now,
cheap money.
remember, now we're earning a little interest. We're not earning a ton, but we are earning a little. So, you know, that it's possible. It's possible if things get better. Of course, this is a lot of good news we're talking about. There's been all the news hadn't been good lately when it comes to pensions and cost to districts and so forth. So we'll just have to take that a day at a time, I guess, or a year at a time.
We'll get to Ms. Jury when she gets here.
All right, so then we will come back to facilities update and move forward with the college and career readiness and the approval of the state civics test.
Good evening. With Senate Bill 159 that was passed in the spring, schools are required to administer a civics test before a student can receive a high school diploma. So therefore, they put the ball in our court. Instead of having this as a part of the K-Prep information with the state testing system, they have added this as a requirement for graduation. So my discussion with you is to approve that we administer the civics test for all students before they receive the high school diploma. I will be working with the high school social studies departments to develop this test. We have several prototypes that we can look at, plus their invaluable knowledge of what students need to know through the civics course that we teach in the 9th grade. So we will begin with our senior class, of course, since they're the nearest to graduation, and then we'll follow up with other students as we get the seniors finished.
Just one quick question on, having looked through some of the questions, sample questions that were in the guide, is there somewhere where it says what the passing percentage is?
60% is what it will be in our district. And they can take it as many times as they need to.
Right, and I read that. So how early can they actually start taking the test? So if, let's say, a freshman wanted to, 9th grader wanted to take the test, they can do it as a freshman and then they're done.
They could, yes.
So then that requirement would be check marked, that would be passed, they still have to go through all their other pieces though?
Yes, last year, one of the requirements for a diploma that was new is that they be informed about CPR administration. So we had to form a Google document for all graduating seniors and ensure that they had been exposed to CPR. The same thing is in effect this year. We will do the same thing as well as this piece. We will use a Google Doc to keep up with that so that our schools are aware at all times of who has and has not passed the test. But this year we will begin with the senior class.
So now they have to take the test, all 100 questions at the same time?
Yes, ma'am.
They do, okay, so they can't do it in?
No.
No, they can't, no. I'm just asking questions. Yes. I mean, yeah, it's a long test. That's right. It's a long test.
And this test is similar to people that are coming in to be citizens of the United States, correct?
Yeah, so you may want to, can you give like a brief kind of background as to why they're doing this?
I believe the reason is why they're doing this is because we have found that citizens are not aware of all of their rights. They're not aware of processes for meetings, for voting, for all of those types of citizenry that we need to know as contributing members of a community. So I really think it's a wonderful thing. But I think that's the background. The legislature felt that we did not have the knowledge base that we needed with our younger citizens. So they wanted this as a graduation requirement.
I just remember when we were in school, and I know it's been a long time.
The horse and buggy were.
It's horse and buggy days, yes.
Everybody had to bring a cord of wood with them?
At least one. We had civics. We took a class, we took a course.
It was required.
And it was required, and you knew your 3 branches of government. You knew what the Constitution was. You had to memorize a preamble. There's something. I mean, my daughters included can't tell you what they should be able to tell you as a citizen of the United States.
And I think that frames the concern.
Yes, I agree. And I don't know why it was taken out. I don't understand that one, but I'm glad they put something in. I'm glad it's happening. I really am.
Yeah, I read that. I was like, wow. Like, yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Yeah. Do we need a motion?
We need a motion. We need a motion to approve the administration of the civics test for high school students in grades 9 through 12.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Berry made the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Norman second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
And our safe and caring environment. First up is the Nelson County Schools and Astra Behavioral Health Contract.
How are you all tonight?
This is Ms. Tiffany Clark.
I have a contract for you guys from Astra Behavioral Health. They are a new agency within our community that can offer services to our students within our schools. Basically, the contract is very similar to Communicare and JP Interventions that are already kind of in our schools. And I think last school year, Bardstown Behavioral Health was an agency that was in our schools. They are no longer an entity in our community, but Astra Behavioral Health is. So I met with Astra and they presented a contract, again, to be able to provide services to our students within our schools in the mental health component. And they are hoping to bring some things into our community that we don't have at this point, some outreach, some different programs, and obviously their clientele will get first pick on those. So we definitely want to be able to offer our students those health services as well. So I recommend that you approve the contract that they presented.
So,
And that, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
And that, so that puts 3 then.
It would still keep us at 3. Last year there were 3. We had 2 beginning the school year, and that would put us back to 3. And I spoke with principals last month to ask them if that was something they were interested in, did they feel the need, and yes, they wanted to make sure that we could provide a space. And there is a schedule so that basically one agency is in a building per day. So each agency, if they have clientele within our buildings, then they have a scheduled day to be there.
so and is it the student and the family that drives which of the 3 that they are wanting to use?
Yes, Family Resource works with our parents if they see the parents need support. They can offer anything in our community or even surrounding communities, and the parents actually pick which agency they want to use.
Could be based upon health insurance they have. which might be
Absolutely.
covered.
Astra can service different health insurance than Communicare and JP Intervention, so that gives other opportunities.
What about Medicaid? Do they take Medicaid?
They do. But Communicare and JP Interventions do as well. But yes, Astra I think has several more options.
Is Astra, I think, is the one that, I believe they've just moved into that white house on the corner behind the Family Medical Center?
That's correct.
Okay,
And Bardstown Behavioral Health was in that building.
okay,
And basically, when they no longer were
Left
an
the
entity,
community.
Astra took over that.
okay, because I think Astra used to be out behind, the fitness place out by Parkway Baptist.
Yes, and they have a location in E-Town as well.
All right, then I will need a motion to approve the request for Astra Behavioral Health to provide services in all Nelson County schools for the 2017-2018 school year.
Motion, go ahead. I'll make a motion.
Mr. Jackie made the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Norman seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Thank you. And then next up is transportation grant, and that is with Mr. Deagle.
Well, they get
Creative.
they get extra
That's a
points
creative
for
title.
creativity like that. Transportation, pretty good. And that's exactly what it is. It's a transportation grant for students to attend stage 1 production of, now, I was getting ready to say Veggie Tales, but this is not Veggie Tales. I think it's American Tales. And it's just purely what it says, transportation grant, $516, and it's for 94 students. And I think it's 3 buses, I'm not sure.
Okay. I'll need a motion to approve the request for Foster Heights Elementary School to apply for grant funding from the Kentucky Arts Council for a fiscal year 2018 transportation grant for $516.
Motion.
Ms. Berry made the motion.
Second.
Mr. Norman seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Deagle. Next up is our student stakeholder engagement, and we're going to talk about our 2018-2019 school calendar with Mr. Morris.
Hi, if you recall, when we were going through our policies and procedure changes earlier in the year, a pretty major change was made to 8.3 for our school calendar. And those requirements, we have a committee of 11 folks now that were required to be on it. And thank you, Mr. Jackie, our board member, was our board member representative on it. And we had elementary teacher, principal from high school, middle school teacher, 2 folks from our Chamber of Commerce, and some parents. So a good collection of people to look at, 11 total. Another part of that requirement is we can't approve it tonight. We need to bring the calendar to you. You look at it, give us some feedback if you see anything that you're not comfortable with, and then we bring it back to you at the next meeting for approval. So, any questions tonight?
I can tell you, I mean, a lot of the discussion at that meeting, and have to give kudos to Mr. Brewer from over at Nelson County ATC. He was kind of one of the taskmasters of adding, I'll put it that way, because, you know, there's requirements on how many days have to be in the calendar, how many work days for staff above and beyond the number of instruction days, but then also trying to make sure that as close as possible, the quarters have the same number of days in them. I mean, that's more important for the high school level and even the middle school level than compared to the elementary level. And so Mr. Brewer was very good about trying to help keep it as balanced as possible. The other thing, trying to build in potential snow days. And I think that one of the things which we never, I cannot remember us doing it in recent years, but we've got snow days identified on here, also knowing that there's some other days that we're not in school that always could be used as snow days if it was the nightmare of all winters that were to come along. The other thing, trying to end as close to a weekend as possible. I think part of the conversation on that was allows families to come in for graduation and spend the 3-day weekend or whatever they might determine to be, and then also for any of the parents that participate in Project Grad. If we hit that graduation on a Friday night, it allows those volunteers to be able to sleep in the next day, since they're up until 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. the next morning. And any of us that have lived through that know that the next day is nothing but sleeping for all of us old folks. So I think that, and the Chamber of Commerce, you mentioned there were two.
Yes, sir. Well, and also want to add, it was not a requirement, but we've met with Bardstown City Schools also to make, not that we're going to line them up exactly because they take 2 weeks at spring and 2 weeks at fall, but what we were running across is with Mr. Brewer trying to provide services to both school systems, if we weren't aligned pretty well, otherwise his folks would have to be there 195 days or so to meet those needs. So Bardstown is very cooperative. We worked together to look at it, that we aligned as much as we possibly could together. And it makes it good too when we have families, you know, one sitting right there, it has one child in one school system and you know, working in another. So some of those things help too. So a lot of people are involved in this calendar this year. I feel real good about what we bring to you.
Since it's not being approved tonight, we will have the ability to approve it before the end of the calendar year though, right? Before December ends?
Would be my preference if we would bring it to the working session, to go ahead and get it approved if we could at the working session, because I've already had, we spoiled parents over the last few years. We get it out pretty early, so I've already have them asking, where is it?
Well, and the reason why, so you're talking even a faster timeline. The reason why I asked is, it was always Mr. Raker that made this good point. Any of the local factories, the distilleries, seniority ends up getting to pick vacation time first. So since that starts happening in January at the local industries, being able to get this in their hands before then allows those.
If you all have no concerns that we need to go back and take to the committee, then I'm ready to ask for your approval at the next working session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. So I saw.
No, we'll just wait on that.
Okay. All right. So then next up is the superintendent search process. So prior to our regular session, we had an orientation which kind of covered.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had an orientation that just kind of told us what the process was going to be. Terry, you want to come up and kind of discuss a little further?
Just briefly, like you said, the representative from KASA came and spoke to the board. They have set a short memorandum of agreement or a short contract which sets out what their services are. I think you all talked about that in a prior meeting and when they gave presentations, so everybody knows what services they do. And just so folks will know, they facilitate the initial planning, oversee the application process, advertise, and recruit high-quality candidates for position, establish, train, and guide screening committee, assist the Board of Education in developing criteria for the position, assist with and guide the Board of Education through the interview process, negotiate finalist contract of employment, and then there are 4 additional things that can be added on to the agreement, which I think you all discussed that before at the meeting, and obviously tonight he outlined those a little bit. And I think that's very important, and you all can discuss it obviously here, but the employee and stakeholder survey, where they actually make a survey of the folks who are going to be involved in, I guess, living with the superintendent when he comes, and who are going to be, as part of that, the folks that he's actually going to be working with. To develop the behavioral event questions, where they send this out to the candidates to find out as much as they can about those. And the price for those things, for that one is $250. For the first one is $500. The third one is provide a profile for each finalist. That is $500. And then a finalist showcase, and I think you probably talked about that before you came, but to where whoever the final candidates are going to be, have those come and actually meet folks in the district. So those additional things make it more of an open process and gets the community involved more if we add those 4 things on, which seems like a pretty reasonable cost. And then, as you know, and I guess the public may know, there is a timeline, and I think Mrs. Breeding had said that you all may be bringing that up at the next meeting. But there's a timeline he's going to suggest to everything that all these take place. And those are going to be things such as, just to let people know, a board training session, and then a screening committee training session. And then he's going to have a timeline of meetings when he actually meets with the screening committee. So I guess what we need is to, if you agree to do that, we need to get you to sign this and initial this after a motion, and then we will send that back to them. They have not signed it yet, so.
So the total cost of this,
$7,000 plus $2,000.
okay, so $9,000 at the end of the day to provide all of these, services. I think they're all a very good thing, and I think we should do every one of them.
I remember that whenever Mr. Saria gave the original presentation, and I forget what it was called.
StrengthsFinder?
Thank you.
Yes.
And that's why I always look at you, because you knew exactly what it was.
Right, because I've done it, and and it is eye-opening. It really is, and it really shows that you've got the right people on the right seats of the bus. I mean, you really do, and it's just.
It gives us insight into the candidates to find out whether or not we're really getting what we think we are getting as far as a candidate in the community.
And what it will do is it will tell you what their natural, what I call God-given kind of strengths, their top 5. I mean, they could have, several, but their top 5 is really what they're looking at.
I know this
isn't
the way it works, but we all see things about, are you an orange or a red or a blue or a green? It's those types of things, is my understanding of truly what is that person made up and what are they good
If they're
at.
analytical,
Yeah.
if they, if they're a people person, they know how to woo a crowd and things like that. I mean, it's really neat.
Well, and I know one of the other things that as he did the presentation and then over at Thomas Nelson, whenever we voted to go with KASA, that I think we all liked was that survey
Yes.
piece. And it's not just employees, but it's also community members as well, trying to get the feedback from them
That's right.
on what we're looking for and what we value in a superintendent
That's right.
candidate.
And this is a community, this is everybody working together to, put this, the superintendent in place. And I think that what they're going to do is really pull everybody together to be able to accomplish that. And I'm excited.
Well, it's something we haven't done here in past searches for a superintendent, that community forum piece, meaning the finalists out there. I know that has started to happen more and more in some other districts over the past 5 to 10 years as they search for superintendents. I think that would give the opportunity, whether it's 2 candidates, 4 candidates, and we get down to the finalists, that people here within the community would actually be able to meet them, kind of hear what some of their vision is. And also, I think it gives us an opportunity as board members, since we're going to have to be working with whoever that final person is, the one that gets hired as superintendent, gives us an opportunity to see how they interact with staff, parents, students, that may also be at those community finalist forums. So, you know, we got the $7,000 package, which is the core package, for just to be $2,000 more for those 4 additional add-ons. You know, if we look at that in the big scheme of things, this is the most important decision that any board can make, because that superintendent sets that tone for the whole district. So to me, it's value that we go on to do those 4 add-ons as well.
Right.
Well, the main thing to me, the main purpose is to get the community involved.
That's right.
And to be up and over transparent, that Nelson County citizens, or Nelson County mamas and dads, have say in who will be our next superintendent.
That's right.
Community-minded, and we are, hopefully, we represent our community, and that's why I liked it the most, is to have that forum where everybody can have a say.
That's right.
That come, everybody needs to come to have that say, and it'll be very transparent for everyone.
And they will have an opportunity to have a voice.
Yes,
you know?
and that's important.
That's right.
To me, it's important, and it should be important to parents out there. That way, if you don't come, it's like voting. If you don't come, you can't.
Yeah, then don't.
Yeah, you can't bark about it.
Great.
And we do want community support. We do want you all to be here to help us through this process, just like KSA is. Yes, KASA is helping us. We want, because they're very professional, very great group here that's going to help us through this. And we also want help from the community involved, helping us through this process. Because we do want the right person for our community. It's not just a great person, we want the right fit for our community. And the only way to do that is help from everyone, so.
It has to be more than a job.
Yes.
That's the way I look at superintendents. It has to be more than a job. They have, to me, a superintendent needs to roll up his or her sleeves and be a part of the community, part of the county, part of the schools, part of wanting to make us better, set an example to make us better. And I think with their help, KSA's help, we can get it done. I really do.
And I think Mr. Saylor has a very impressive resume and an impressive background. I've talked to a couple of people today about him that are outside of our district. They were very impressed with him, and I think we were lucky to get him to come work with us out of that organization.
Yes.
You're very right, Terry. He is a very great man.
Ms. Green, I think, one other quick thing is that I know that we don't have any finalized timeline, meaning on this date, this will happen, this date, that'll happen. I think next month's meeting, there will be more on that.
Right.
But I mean, just so we know, we're still months away from a final candidate, or those final few candidates, because I know a lot of people are probably wondering, so have you already hired them? You know, have you already got applications that are coming in? The application process hasn't even started yet. So I think that's important to note, is that we are still 6 months plus, who knows, away.
We want to take our time.
Yes,
Yeah, we don't want
to
to
do
do
it right.
a big hurry. That way we are doing it right.
Like I said before, I want to keep Mr. Brown as long as we can, simply because it's allowed teachers and it's allowed parents to know that we are breathing, that we are smoothing out, that we're calm, and it's the best thing for our students and our teachers. And I have great faith that this will all work out. It'll be seamless from one step to another step.
Well, and we need it, right, a
and
smooth
we need it.
transition.
Yes.
So, you know,
Yes.
with whoever, is selected as the superintendent, what
Yes.
this will do is provide a seamless transition.
There you go.
So that they can basically start on the right foot. That's right, yeah. So,
But we will make sure that you don't have to be sweating things come football season next fall, so you can spend more time following the Troy team, okay?
Thank you very much. Now, in this process, you know, I will pledge that we will work very hard to make whoever you all select an easy transition for them to step in to be superintendent.
Great, no doubt. Great.
So do we need a motion then?
We'll need a motion
To
for
do
that,
not
too.
only the core, but the 4 additional
Great.
add-on pieces?
Great, so what we'll need is we'll need a motion to approve the service agreement with KASA, with the core and with the 4 add-ons to total $9,000.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie made the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Norman second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Gaston.
hands first. Next up is our guest comments. Any person wishing to address the board may do so by following these rules. Individuals representing themselves are limited to 3 minutes. Individuals representing a group are limited to 5 minutes. Please step up to the microphone, state your name and address, and if you represent a group, state the name of the group you are representing. Okay. All right, then next up is I will need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810 IC to discuss proposed and pending litigation involving the Nelson County Schools.
Motion.
Mr. Jackie made a motion.
Second.
Ms. Berry second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.